What a way to start the show on a Wednesday morning by first of all saying good morning. Welcome to Breakfast Central. My name is Joe Hansen. Bengal was good.
Yeah, I'm good. Welcome to Breakfast Central. It's good to be here. We go again. Today's Wednesday. We have a lot lined up for you, and hopefully we don't have any disruptions on today's show. The Africa Forward Summit is over in Nairobi. French President Macron was there, and also yesterday, the man popularly known as M7. Well, the 7 means a lot. The 7 means he's been elected or sworn in for 7th term in office at the age of 81. We wish him and Ugandans a very happy tenure in office for the next 5 years. And we also wish him well if he chooses to go for an 8th term in office. Is all in his right. Today's Wednesday, and typically I dedicate my Women Wednesday to Olive. Olive, I'm cheating on you today. Today's Women Wednesday goes to Judith.
Oh, God.
You're looking like Jackie O. You know, all very regal and presidential. I think you should seek political office.
I intend to. Yeah, I intend to.
Because you're
yes.
You're boss lady.
Yeah, I am. Yeah. I am. Thank you. I intend to.
Are you going for minister? Are you going for SSA?
Go for
I want to start with political appointments.
No.
I want to start with appointments.
Start with
agency
minister.
or
MDA, DG.
MDAs, DG. Let's start there. You know. Or special advisor on media, you know, and then...
Yeah, maybe the national television.
From our lips to God's ears, and may the fates play in my favor. But
Amen.
in the meantime, good morning to all of our viewers. It's going to be quite the packed show this morning. So much to talk about. I mean, from yesterday, we already sort of gave you a taste of what to expect come today's show. And one of them is the federal government that is seeking $1.25 billion World Bank loan. We're going to get into that. Also, we have a very special interview lined up for you this morning, talking about the leaders of the ADC, and one of them, majors and others, are now decamping to the NDC. So we're looking at that cross-carpeting, ADC just coming off on the scene, being a strong coalition. At least that's what it started as. And now we're seeing this carpeting crossing to NDC. And we're going to be having the former Lagos State governorship candidate, I beg your pardon, and that's Funso Doherty, join us as well. A lot is lined up for us, going to be discussing right here on Breakfast Central. So as usual, we're on YouTube streaming live, and we're taking comments on there as well, aren't we, Joe?
Yes, we are, and I'm straight to YouTube. Go ahead, feel free to drop a comment or two. We're on YouTube, like Jennifer said, and let's have that conversation going. We're going to start off with our very first wake-up conversations, and I think it's right that we start off with this story. It came as a shock yesterday when Nigerians heard that one of the most revered, one of the most young, vibrant actors had lost his life. The cause of the death, well, still unknown, sketchy. But like I always say, it's very important that you wait for the family to put out a press release, and that will surface. But Nollywood actor Alex Ekubo is dead at the age of 40. There are statements that it was cancer, it was kidney, it was liver, here and there. But whatever the case is, it's a very sad moment. It's been a sad day, especially for those in the creative sector and the movie industry. Aside that, also a sad day for those around the world, everyone around the world, because the moment he got into the scene, he was well accepted, especially the fact that many were drawn to him because of his handsome looks, his ability to play, different role, especially from trying to move away from the love scenes and so on, or romantic scenes. But all of a sudden, there was this silence. And we do recall one of his tweets where he said he was going to leave the social media space. And he actually did. Many thought he wouldn't. And he's been quiet.
Yeah, for the last 2 years.
Right.
For the last 2 years. So much quiet. And no one knew. Kind of like reminds me of what happened to Wakanda. Black Panther, Chadwick Boseman, where nobody knew what he was struggling with, but he was battling with a lot until 2020, during the year where the world faced a pandemic, and we heard, listen, your favorite superhero has actually gone to sleep. And everyone said, how? How possible is that? This was someone who just acted a movie, or some bridge or something, if I can recall, and nobody expected that would happen. But then again, this is what life really is. I don't know how you guys took the story, but very sad.
It's very sad. First of all, I'm from Cross River State, and he went to University of Calabar, and I also went to University of Calabar. I studied law, I studied education, English languages, 40, I'm close to that age, and we've always been like 3 circles or 2 degrees away. We'd always see him at the library. You'd always see him at the Unico law area. If you were familiar with University of Calabar, the law students happen to always have their lectures at the Unico library. He also was quite a popular kid in Calabar. If you grew up in Calabar, you know that he was quite a popular kid, and he's always been a very handsome chap, and he's very charismatic, and it's sad. Just like I said, 2 degrees away, you've always observed him and you watch him grow. We always knew he was handsome. Everyone knew he was handsome. He was very charismatic. He went on to contest for Mr. Nigeria and started acting as well. And we've always known him to have this boisterous laughter and this full of life and completely full of energy. And may his soul rest in peace.
Amen.
I'll leave it there.
I mean, it's really, really sad. I mean, 40 is the beginning of your life. And it looked like, and looking at his trajectory, that he had so much more to offer, and to see him caught in his prime, it's very, very sad. Everyone has been mourning, and it just goes to show the sort of person he was. Like you said, larger than life, very boisterous, happy, go lucky type of guy. And the tributes have been pouring in. Even if you don't know who he is, I mean, you'll be moved by some of the things many who knew him had to say about him. And my thoughts and prayers are with his family, and may God grant them the fortitude to bear the loss. A very sad one there.
Absolutely. Well, like we said, we'll keep waiting and hopefully get more information from the family. But I also want to use this medium to speak with those on social media who have gone concocting, cooking, rapping, doing concoction, stories, and so on. I think we should learn to respect people, especially whether they're alive or even when they're dead. Let the family take time to mourn. But I'm sure you'll join our entertainment team. That'll be later on at 4 o'clock later today. That's Take 3. They'll be speaking on that, and I'm sure they'll have the experts and possibly try to reach out some of the family members to also touch on that story. But let's move on now to our first wake-up conversation. Lagos Senator Wasiu Sanni Eshilokun recently held his 11th town hall in the senatorial district, where supporters were seen distributing something to people. That distributed cash grants, scholarships, and aid worth 1 million naira per ward to over 1,500 people, while endorsing President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's 2027 re-election. Now, this video you see on the screen there is a video of the event which has led to critics on social media terming the event as a vote-buying strategy aimed at exploiting poverty amid Nigeria's current economic struggles. The same day, reports surfaced of infighting among APC governors over alleged misuse of federal funds through groups tied to the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's renewed hope agenda, with no direct link proven to Eshilokun's event, but optics fueling demands for probe into the development. But let's just take a look at this video, and then we'll come back and speak on the implications and what this means, especially as Nigeria's democracy continues to grow.
I want you over to back. I want you over to back. I just get a joke. Sorry, joke. I'm not paying less. But what I want back. Ẹ jọ̀ọ́ bí bá ṣe ń gbà ẹ máa gba báyìí. Ẹ má bá kámẹ́rà jẹ, má mi ẹ gba báyìí lọ. Báyìí ni kẹgbà lọ. Ó máa láàdù jù ú. Ó yá ẹ jọ̀ọ́ tẹ́ bá ti gbà ẹ máa gba báyìí lọ.
All All right, so the video you see there, and of course you can see they have the insignia logos on, and that of the APC as
the
well.
Infinity logo.
Infinity logo, yes. And the funds are being shared. There you go. It's wrapped up and being shared.
Cash empowerment program.
Cash
It's been termed by the organizers. Bola Ahmed Tinubu
Cash Empowerment Program. SEP. Okay.
You know what? I love that name.
SEP. Okay. All right. And not just that, they're also taking the list. We do hear that they're taking the list of the names of the people. You also told if you have your PVC, of course, you need to put that down as well so they can have it well detailed and ensure that you received. Anyway, let's just look at the reality of all of this. What does this portend for Nigeria's democracy? Well, what we see there has continued to generate conversations, trends, and people are wondering, in this day and age, does this show a sign of weaponizing poverty?
It is.
2, does this show does this does this show that Nigeria's democracy is indeed growing, or are we actually retrogressing? Thirdly, cash being shared to people, and people, the previous one we had seen, it was the NURTW, where bags of rice were being given to its members, but you have to bring your PVC first, and then you show it up, and of course it's recorded, and then you take your bag of rice. And what also got a lot of persons worried.
I mean, and that PVC angle is what shows that they are not doing this for everyone. There's a reason behind it.
So what are they going to do with the PVC records?
To prove that you can vote on that day, and then we have your names, and we hope you fulfill your own end of the bargain.
Okay,
I mean, this is
vote
buying.
Are you going to follow them to ensure that?
They probably have their methods. And it's funny how, anti-graft agency, INEC, everyone is...
This is against the law.
They are unlooking all of this. I mean, this is classical weaponization of poverty, illiteracy, and economic hardship. Because we know what's happening in the land, and these politicians are crafty enough to take advantage of the desperate situation people are in. I mean, if you go to different countries around the world, this would never happen in Namibia. Even Ghana, Ghana that is just 2 doors away from us here. And it's getting worse because we're not even talking issues anymore. It's no longer issue-based. It's what people have termed cash and carry democracy. Goes to the highest bidder. So let's try and outspend your opponent. And sadly, there are many people that are not short of this monies. It doesn't directly need to come from the presidency or from the president. There are people that want to be in his good books and are ready to, in quote, invest large sums of money to ensure that he gets back, because it's a quid pro quo sort of system. You rub my back, I rub your back. I deliver for you, and I expect certain things to work for me. And it's sad because if you look at all the indices, we're not doing very well at all. Human Development Index, out of school children, the quality of life, everything is just bad. And to see this play out in open, proudly play out, it's heartbreaking. I wonder what Judith has to say.
I mean, nicely put. You put it really well. Again, to me, it's not new what they have done. I think, I'm not saying that APC has done this. What we know from what we've seen past years when it comes to our democracy and around the times of elections, there's always been deals that have passed, whether I want to say it's vote buying, it's empowerment program, it's, giving souvenirs, which in sometimes is in kind in terms of rice, bag of rice. We've always seen that around this time. But what I find, and what critics have argued is unsettling, is the sycophancy of it all. Putting on the Ashwebi, having a ceremony with DJs playing music in the background, and there's a public system, public address system. There's also balloons and decorations, and people are lined up to get these envelopes. And on the envelopes, you can practically see the picture of the president and his the vice president. Vice President Kashim Shettima boldly on the envelopes, and can see the stack what of cash just on the table there. And it's very, I mean, it doesn't pass me that the Ghana must go that is there is also in
Of
the
course,
color, a color of green as well. It's very interesting. Of course, the table as well is with the tablecloth. So this is a well-prepared, arranged ceremony, and it's the brazen. Just the brazenness of it all is unsettling, and many critics have argued about this. At this point, it's too bold, it is unsettling, and uncautionable.
It's sad. It's sad. I mean, this is where we did see the City Boy movement, where a lot was being given out to people, from tricycles to
Fridges.
To generators. Even though the one had been in Benin, the people didn't show up to pick them up. But now, what do we call this one? Is this City Boy part 2? Or this is...
I mean, this is just another...
It's a different one entirely.
Different group.
And monies are being shared. It's a cause for worry.
Yeah. And my concern and serious cause for worry is that why do we have laws if we're not going to enforce them? Because this undermines the spirit of the Electoral Act, which is clearly against voter inducement and vote buying. So in what way is this not vote buying? You're asking for the PVCs. You do know the reason why you're distributing this cash to them. You have a register, a list. This is vote buying. And it's really sad that enforcement is really weak.
And I wonder what INEC is doing.
Vote buying. So we need to talk to INEC. We need to also talk to EFCC, because is this not abuse of the Naira?
As well. Also, police, the EFCC, I don't necessarily think INEC, because they're
the ones the Electoral Act
right?
is.
So they enforce them,
they
right?
created the
but they would
the anti-vote buying laws,
right,
so they need to speak up on it.
Right, but they would also find loopholes in the law, right? And they would say, I'm just preempting what could most likely happen. They would say, oh, it's not yet election cycle, the election calendar hasn't begun, they haven't done their primaries. This could most likely be delegates within their primaries, and we don't have, and there's empowering their delegates within their party, soliciting. So that's most likely what it is, not really. So they could find loopholes in it.
So this is why I always say, I think that the presidency should be more circumspect. And what do I mean? Many times, whenever things like this happen, if the presidency is not in support of it,
then why do they do it in his name?
There should be a press statement or a press release that distances the president from such act. Because at the end of the day, Gbenga,
it's his image.
You cannot use my image. There's something called image rights. You don't have the right to use my image. And even the political party, the APC, should be able to come out and say, listen, you cannot use, this is a warning to every single member of ours. You, going forward, obey the electoral laws. You dare not use the APC logo to perpetrate X, Y, Z, or A, B, C, D, E. But when we see these things happen, and then we expect that the presidency or the political party would speak up, but they keep quiet, what does it mean? Nigerians will read it as complicit.
Yeah, and guess what? There's going to be a copycat system where the other political parties would do it. Because if you go to the electorates and say, oh, vote for Judith, and they tell you Benga came and gave us X amount of money. Judith, what do you have to offer? You start speaking English. They'll tell you that my stomach is rumbling. It's not that English I want to speak. Right. Unfortunately, high inflation, high levels of poverty and education, these are the conditions where vote inducement thrives, and the situation is rife across the country, and it will continue to rise. And that's why this image of a cash and carry democracy is sticking, because this is exactly what it is. And it's unfortunately that so many people will buy into it, and it will become, will normalize this sort of anomaly, which is terrible. But let's take a listen to what Nigerians have to say, or rather, read you tweets from what Nigerians are saying on X. Nefertiti says, this is subsidies, loans and taxes. This is your 2025 budget. This is why Minister of Health got 36 million naira and MDA's got nothing. Any other strategy apart from rice and vote buying? And puts the clown emoji. Shehu Ghazali Sadiq says, is the EFCC aware that APC governors are fighting over deductions from FAC to fund Tinubu's campaign. Well, this is a very serious
That story
allegation.
has been going on since last week. It's been flying. I don't know how true that story is.
Mr. Zah says they remove subsidies so FAC can increase. Nigerians have to suffer now so they can enjoy later. See what they're doing with your FAC money? Chichi says, running for second term with achievements. No, let's not do that. Running for second term with money, yes.
But what Chichi is trying to say there is that normally if one is going to run for another term, like it's done in other democracies, especially in the United States, when you try to run for second term, we do recall, was it President Obama or who? I'm trying to remember what president is for the United States. It was this events they had. And what you do normally, you come out and then you mention the things you've achieved in 4 years. Oh, we did this, we did that. Do you remember this? You list it. By the time you list it, everybody, people who see it will either give that sign of a nod and say, oh, yeah, that's true. Or they would say, it didn't work. So I think that's what Chichi was trying to highlight, that, okay, you're going to
let's talk about achievements.
Let's talk about the achievements. Nobody wants to talk about the achievements. But like we always say here, we've spoken to members of the APC. I mean, they're the incumbent. And with all due respect, we've noticed there's a trend of the same statement whenever they come on the show. What has been achieved, I would mention them again: infrastructure, NEL Fund, and the others.
Student loan.
Of course, you have...
Yeah, exactly. That's NEL Fund, yeah.
Yeah, and then you have all of that. But I don't know. Anyway.
I think we still have one more.
Yeah, maybe we'll have one more tweet to look into very quickly.
Reformer Olu Sheon says, one deficiency of democracy is that it assumes all citizens are morally and intellectually equal in political judgment. Imagine having the same voting power as people who are willing to vote for anyone in exchange for small cash tokens without considering competence, integrity, or public interest. Well, Reformer, that's the sad reality that we cannot change until we have a mass number of Nigerians in the majority that are literate and know what they want. We will have to deal with this situation in the nearest, for the foreseeable future, sadly.
Very sad.
I mean, and it's not peculiar to Nigeria alone. You look at America, you look at the United Kingdom, they just concluded elections and Nigerians voting for a party where someone said, you know, let's melt all the Nigerians in Britain to fill up the potholes. You would think an anti-immigration party, a borderline racist party. You would think, why would any right-thinking Nigerian vote for reform? But, well, that's democracy. You cannot police everybody's freedoms or thoughts. So some people would vote A or B. So I guess that's how it works.
Okay, let's go on YouTube very quickly. Nej San says, their sins will be forgiven. INEC and EFCC will do nothing because, he says, because it's another party, they will know that there is law. Said if it was done by another political party, then they will know that there is a law. INEC is a department of, well, I don't know about this, Michael Zeus, while one of them was shouting about vote buying in Ekiti. What happened to all the video evidence you are providing in the broadcast? Nothing good will come from Amupito. So says, hello, Joe, Judith, and Benga. Good morning, my peeps. They say,
good morning.
Good morning to you, Michael. We do see your tweets. Moke Chukwemeka says, Oshiba just started with trader money. Hello, Joe. This is what the president expects of his people. He cannot distance himself. He is happy these things are happening for his re-election bid. Well, we can't say that for sure. But then again, we're hoping that maybe some way, somehow, the presidency will put out a statement to distance itself from such, because it does not in any way agree with the electoral laws. Please tell me anywhere in the whole wide world where money is shared to people and it is called empowerment. We don't know how fast APC is taking us backwards. It's a
good
shame.
one. I mean, the words luxury and apartment and empowerment rather have been bastardized.
Those two words have been bastardized.
In Nigeria, everything is luxury.
I need to
Now,
write that down.
Empowerment. Do you know what it is to empower someone? To empower someone means to teach someone how to fish rather than hand them fish. The political class is always handling the downtrodden, the economically marginalized people fish rather than teach them how to fish, which is unfortunate. And they seem to like it because, I mean, they have the means and the resources. So let's just go out shopping and shop for voters, hence cash and carry democracy. By the way, Speed Darlington has a song called Cash and Carry. You should listen to it.
No, I would not.
I'll send you.
I'd rather stay silent and listen to the birds quack. Anyway, let's move on to our next story. Governor of Abia State, former Diamond Bank chairman, Governor Alex Otti has publicly come out to defend Peter Obi's record as Anambra governor, confirming that the former governor Peter Obi left behind savings rather than debt when he exited office in 2014. Governor Otti confirmed that Obi left behind substantial savings for Anambra State. He described the former governor's action as something rare in Nigerian leadership or politics history, emphasizing Obi's fiscal prudence while he was governor of Anambra State. Governor Alex Otti's defense comes amid ongoing debate about Obi's economic management style, especially as it relates to his presidential ambitions in the build-up to the 2027 elections. Well, let's see if we can watch the footage, even though there might be some sound challenges, but let's try.
In the media, there has been accusations and counter-accusations about the money he left in Anambra State. And as a participant at that time in 2013-2014, I would like to again restate that Peter Obi actually left the money he said he left. And I had documented it in my back page article that I wrote some 2 years ago on the 8th of June 2020. I happened to be the CEO of Diamond Bank at that time, and he came to my office. He wanted to leave the money in cash, and we said no. We strategized and said we'll invest the money in Euro bonds. I personally helped him exchange Naira to dollar, about $155 million, which we are invested in the tier 2 capital of some of the banks, and then in some Euro bonds. Some of them have maturities up to 2023. So some of the monies have not matured.
Okay, let's quickly see what Nigerians are saying, and then we can come back to the studio and see how Nigerians are reacting to that story. Just as we mentioned, that video surfaced after there was a backlash on the presidential aspirant's ability to manage an economy. Well, it says, okay, we all know Alex Otti has said he is supporting Tinubu, but at least he still said the truth about Peter Obi. They will tell you he kept it his friends, it is his family's business, all manner of things. But let's be clear, Peter Obi did what he said he did. That's from Oluwaseun. Blessing for Arsenal says, Alex Otti just confirmed what many tried to hide. Peter Obi left money behind, not debt. Most governors leave huge debts, but Anambra was left with billions in savings. Another person, Holigbe, says, Peter Obi is exactly what he says he is. Here is Alex Otti confirming as a witness to the huge amount of money Obi left in Anambra's treasury after his tenure. Funds many other governors would have looted, leaving empty accounts for their successors. That is the difference between leadership and exploitation, so says. Another one, Uche, when Alex Otti stated Peter Obi actually left the money he said he left, I documented it. I was the CEO of Diamond Bank then. He was not speaking as a social media supporter, but as a financial insider with first-hand knowledge. Now, in Nigerian politics, where exaggerated achievements and manipulated records are common, independent validation from a respected banking professional carries weight. Arguments that Peter Obi's governance style was built around fiscal discipline, accountability, and prudent management of public resources. So says that. Let's take one more tweet quickly. Peter Obi's greatest advantage is that even people who don't support him usually admit he's disciplined and prudent. Well, that's what we're going to take. Guys, I don't know what you have to say to this, but I mean, this story,
I'm just wondering why this is
because of the disputes
in the forefront of conversations after 12 years since he left office. It just goes to show the rarity of it, because it's almost like, wow, it's like purple rain. this is not normal in Nigeria's political scene, but this should be the norm. You leave something substantial for your predecessor, for your successor to work with. But we've seen that, I mean, we've seen these reports here of the new governor talking about how they almost looted TV sets,
cars,
kitchen utensils,
everything.
cars, and to see billions of naira left, I think is quite remarkable.
Remarkable indeed. Look, this man left governorship how many years now in the making?
12 years.
12 years. And then it's still heart-wrenching that, or it's still sort of concerning that every single time his peers always have to come out to defend how much he's left, how much he hasn't left, you know, what he did, what he didn't do. And that was 12 years ago. And even till now, we've seen him be philanthropic. We've seen him talk about national issues, human capital issues, you know, issues that concerns women and children. We've seen him advocate for women, women in office and governance. We've seen him done a lot of things that, far and large, is clearly somebody who means well. Right? And so this is my own call to opposition. How about we stop focusing on the things that he did 12 years ago and start to talk about the things that you did when you were governor, or what you did when you held office. How about we do that, you know? So again, 12 years ago, done and dusted, right? In that time, 2 persons are now governors, right? He's gone. He is now a private citizen who is doing the best in his capacity that he can do, given, you know, his retirement that he has. Can we all focus on the things that you have done? I want to see proof. I want to see, you know, not godfatherism, okay, nor nepotism, because even his children, I mean, from what we know, they're not in public offices. They're not, you know, doing on-the-table deals or, you know, heading some department or agencies. We don't know any of his relatives that hold those offices. Or I might be wrong. Correct me. I stand to be corrected. But we don't know that. On the other hand, that's not the same for you. So how about you focus? Let's know what you've done. All right? Show me what you've done. Leave that man alone.
That's a good one.
That's what I got to say.
I mean, that's a good one. That's a good one. And why the story is on Wake Up is because it's trending and people said, hey, it's about time we put this to the books. And when they had the opportunity to ask the governor, Alex Otti, he said, listen, I'm going to also help you guys to put this to the books. Let's nail it to the coffin. This he actually did. And maybe it would, you know, like one of the tweets said, that's the difference between leadership and exploitation. Mm-hmm. We can say a whole lot on this, but I'm sure we have a lot to talk about, guys. Let's go straight to our top stories for today. If you just tuned in, this is Breakfast Central. We can see all your comments on YouTube. Obi leaving money was wrong, according to opposition. Man built 900 kilometers of roads, built bridges, distributed over 1,000 transformers, achieved great WAEC levels. The man is different, he says. Saludo, did you hear Otti? Don't bring a man down just because you want to climb. So says Chuka or Chiama and the likes. Well, we'll take so many other comments in the course of our programming, but stay with us. Let's bring to you our top stories on a Wednesday morning here on Breakfast Central. This morning on Breakfast Central, federal government seeks fresh $1.25 billion World Bank loan.
The opposition parties hold convention ahead of the 2027 election cycle, as well as ahead of 2027 elections. ASDP and the NDC, they will hold their convention to make strong statements for that. Not to forget that coming up at the 10 o'clock hour, or rather the 9 o'clock hour, it will be the newspaper front pages review. So stick around as Breakfast Central on News Central Television.
You're welcome back to Breakfast Central. The federal government is seeking a fresh $1.25 billion World Bank facility valued at about 1.7 trillion naira at the current exchange rate to support economic reforms, job creation and investment growth. Under the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the proposed loan expected to go before the World Bank Board on June the 26th, 2026, would become the second largest World Bank facility secured by the Tinubu administration if approved, and will push Nigeria's total public debt which stood at 159.28 trillion, or about $110.97 billion as of December 2025, to roughly 160.98 trillion naira, further intensifying concerns over the country's growing debt burden and dependence on external financing.
Well, let's also mention very quickly that since President Bola Ahmed Tinubu assumed office in May 2023, the World Bank has approved approximately $9.35 billion in loans and credits for Nigeria. In June 2024, the bank approved a combined $2.25 billion package under the Reset and Armor Economic Reform programs, alongside a separate $1.5 billion reforms for economic stabilization to enable transformation facility. Well, currently, the largest World Bank loan secured under the administration as well. Now, in September 2024, another $1.57 billion was approved for the Hope and SPIN programs targeting healthcare, education, and social protection, while in March 2025, the bank approved about $1.08 billion for education, nutrition, and resilience projects. If the new $1.25 billion facility is approved this month, total World Bank approvals under the current administration would rise to about $10.6 billion in just over 3 years. Now, that is huge. But joining us now to dissect the implications of this, we do have economist and development expert Dr. Aliyu Elias, who joins us. Good morning, Dr. Elias, and thank you so much for being here. All right. I want to be certain that Nigerians are aware of these borrowings and will need you to please help us with it. Just yesterday, while this story was circulating, it's about 48 hours since this story made the headlines, especially looking at the Punch newspaper. The current Minister of Finance, Taiwo Oyedele, at an event recently warned that Nigeria cannot continue borrowing to fund consumption and development. Now, looking at the country's current debt trajectory and the warning from the Minister, Taiwo Oyedele, what do you make of these fresh borrowings? And are we about to get into a pothole that would be hard for us to come out from?
Right. So I think it's quite understandable why Taiwo Oyedele was saying that, because they understand that when you are borrowing, you must borrow for a project type loan, and you must make sure that it's a project that can actually directly or indirectly pay itself. Then the major thing we need to look at, my major fear, I think I said at the beginning of this program, is the timing. You know, when you are borrowing, you have to look at the timing of that borrowing also. You have to look at the political economy of that borrowing itself. And we have to make sure that we actually guide ourselves so that we will not fall into a pit hole that we cannot actually, come out from. Now, by the timing, why I say the timing is that you will recall that we are having our election is around the corner. The primaries and going, everything is actually good. So I think for me, if there's a way I can talk to World Bank, I will definitely say that, please, can you hold it until the next general, the upcoming general election? That's one. Then number two is that borrowing itself, like we already said, is not that it is bad, but what are you actually borrowing for? From what you chronicle down, I also remember there was a borrowing for women empowerment, there was a borrowing for child education, there's borrowing for social safety nets. There's borrowing for economic stability, about 2.25 billion. Then you have talked about education and health. The question is that these projects, are they actually translate? Because we should borrow 2023, 2024. By now, we should be seeing the outcome of those borrowing. Have they actually translate to better well-being for Nigeria? Can this government actually point at a lot of projects that this borrowing will actually help? If not, I think the more borrowing is the more problem for Nigeria. We must also look at the challenges of borrowing. In as much as it's good to have money to execute what you can really not afford. But the challenge is that, remember, our naira is weak. So the more you borrow, the more you have challenges of paying. The more, in fact, if it's weak, the more you have a lot of obligation to actually look at. Then the major thing is that if you look at our revenue it's also a problem. That simply means that we must do what we can do to ensure that we have more revenue to actually pay these debts. Remember also, we have issue of debt servicing. If you look at our current, our budgets, you see that 15.4 or is it 15.8 is going for debt servicing, and that simply means that it will deny Nigerians social infrastructure from capital expenditure.
You're just talking about timing, right? So let's look at the timing itself. Within 2023 and 2026, and that's June 2023 and May of 2026, Nigeria have now secured about $9.35 billion in World Bank approvals. And of course, inflation isn't going anywhere. In fact, in spite of the rebasing of the numbers, we still see inflation and food inflation still high. Unemployment rate is soaring. Cost of living pressures, crisis at this point also remain severe. And so one has to ask about, the severity of the impact Nigerians will feel when it comes to the time of repayment of these loans. Now, the argument that supporters of this move of getting a loan have said that, they come at the interest rates come at very flat. They always talk about the interest rate of it. It's not so much. It's not so much. But clearly there is a pressure. So let's talk about the impact of that, in spite of whether or not it's a minimal interest rate to pay back.
Clearly, it's always good to get loans from World Bank because of the moratorium, and it's far, far better than domestic borrowing to not give us pressure home for us to have capital for that small businesses. I think for that, it's good. But in terms of the pressure, in fact, if you look at it critically, if you borrow this money, it has impacts on our inflation. It will have impacts also on our, purchasing power, our oil earnings. So if you look at it generally, for me, the time I'm actually referring to is the timing of the election period, because you have to look at the political side of it. We don't want our money to go into political programs, because if you borrow at this point in time, it simply means that, and the money is released before the election, that money might find its way to politics. That's what I was trying to talk about. But in terms of borrowing and timing for borrowing, every economy actually borrows. Even the biggest economy, they borrow. But the fact remains that they actually strictly use the money for what they intend to use it for, not that they will vary it. Perhaps if you look at this borrowing, it is tied to job creation and investment. When I try to look at it critically, when you say investment, I discover that it is much more of a to provide a meter, power sector, and I discovered that this power sector we're actually getting loans for every now and then. It makes these people in that sector much more not perform as expected, because if you look at power sector, the discos is privatized, the Genco is privatized, but if you look at the disco, I see there is no any much more investment. Also, we have actually unbundled electricity sector, whereby states can actually invest adequately, but we've not seen them invest. So I think government should do more to encourage discos to invest more, and to encourage states to invest more, rather than saying they want to actually borrow more. Then in terms of job creation, sometimes they need to actually break it down for us. Are they creating enabling environment for people to actually work, or they want to still give some stipend, which we need to look at critically. Our MSME need to survive, and for them to survive, the critical sector is just the energy sector that will actually enable them to actually work. So loan itself is not actually bad. What we're using it for is what it is challenging. But the other concern that we have as a Nigerian is that, government have actually found different means of getting sourcing for funds. You recall, there was first subsidy remover, there was flotation of naira. There's also subsidy remover to an extent to the electricity. So this makes more money available for government. In fact, government have more money in our foreign reserve. So you now wonder, why are we actually borrowing to this extent if we have all this working for us? You also remember that most state governments said they have more money, according to what the PAC is sharing, over 2 trillion now. So I think we should tarry. If we are told we are going to borrow, let us hold on until after election.
Absolutely, and I believe that's the same sentiment the World Bank is sharing. And you answered the $1 million question. if you're making money from subsidy removal, from electricity, from power, why are we still borrowing? And that leads us to this big issue of revenue problem versus borrowing problem. Nigeria's debt to GDP is often described as moderate, but debt to revenue is alarming because we're conservatively spending over 70% of our forex, of our income on debt servicing. That leaves about 30% left for development. No responsible organization or family can operate with that. So my question is also looking at the present day geopolitics of the world and economic realities. As of early May, Nigeria and all firms have generated estimated 5.1 trillion naira. That's about $4 billion in oil windfall revenue as a result of the conflagration in the Middle East due to soaring crude oil prices reaching $110, $134 per barrel, triggered by the Middle East crisis. So if all of this is happening and the Middle East crisis, is Nigeria's real crisis a debt problem or a revenue problem? Which reforms should we prioritize to fix it?
Right. So I like to say this before actually delving into what you asked critically. You recall that most World Bank loans also come with their conditionalities. I recall that the issue of first subsidy removal was actually, advised from that quarter. You also remember the subsidy removal from electricity was also from there. So my fear now is that if we continue to borrow and borrow this humongous money again, I'm sure there's not going to be much more pressure on our tax because, World Bank may come and say, okay, increase tax in this axis, make people pay more in this area. It's always come with conditionalities. And that's why we want our handlers, the handlers of the president in terms of this, borrowing, should look at it critically. If it comes with more pressure on tax or on fiscal policy, we should actually, not get such loan. Then you make critical questions. There are some loans that I expected that even though the World Bank board are still going to approve it, I'm thinking in my mind that the National Assembly should reject this loan. They should reject this loan because you recall that everything that comes to their table, they seem to actually approve it at every now and then. And why did I say they should actually reject this loan? If you look at the US, Israel, Iran war, it has actually bring more money to the coffers of the federal government, even though the citizens are worse off in terms of pump price. But you agree with me that the money we are going to realize within this period, within the period of this war, would have doubled even the amount we want to actually borrow. So if we actually want to look at it very well, I expect National Assembly to look at this critically and say, yes, we actually have a plan to borrow this because this money we are seeing have been on pipeline for long. But at this point in time, we have actually gotten some money from another source. Can we just say no to this one and actually continue with what we actually have? Because you recall that even citizens are paying more on pump price and government has not done anything to actually pushing the effect. Why government, you have actually chronicled and mentioned some amount of money that actually came in. So I think government should start prioritizing the development of Nigeria, not getting the money, in as much as if we have challenges, we'll go borrow. Now that we have more money, why not make use of the money? This would have reduced pressure on our naira. It will have helped our oil earnings and also bring development into the country. So I share a sentiment that National Assembly should actually advise the president or Adewole Adebayo, who actually condemned borrowing to an extent, should actually advise Mr. President that at this point in time, we have money that we never expected in our coffers. Can we make do and not borrow? Because when you borrow, remember, it comes with conditionalities. It comes with its own pressure on inflation. It comes with its own pressure on our revenue. Then you spoke about revenue. You recall that I don't think there's government in this fourth republic that actually enjoy getting more revenue like this president government. So I think they are doing well in terms of revenue, but we must be careful so that we will not continue to use debt servicing, eating up the revenue and it will deny Nigerians the social infrastructure. Remember, it is still an obligation. If you borrow now, you are still going to pay. So we must make sure that we reduce it, and it will not be an obligation that will erode the benefits that we're supposed to gain from social infrastructure.
Okay, we've seen that there's a lot that has to do with capital expenditures. And one of the things that the administration had promised was that they were going to reduce the costs of running office, but rather it seems to be over-bloated, if we must use that word. And now, I mean, you've mentioned that you're hoping that the National Assembly will reject it. We've seen where many have highlighted or called the National Assembly a rubber stamp assembly.
An APC majority,
you know,
National Assembly.
So we don't know how possible that will be. But then again, let's look at the loan. The government says these loans would be for, I mean, by the way, for our viewers, in case they do not know, this loan has a name. So this loan is called NIJA, apparently. NEIJA, while I was looking through it. And NIJA simply stands for Nigerian Actions for Investment Jobs Acceleration. NIJA, that's what this $1.25 billion loan. So it's highlighted as NIJA. So they said it's for jobs, reforms for investments and the likes. But I want to ask, as an economist as well, how are we able to follow through with the previous loans that have been collected? And they've been said to be used for, job creation, infrastructural development, and the likes. And here it seems like this is a repetition where we're collecting these funds again. And secondly, while you answer that, how we're able to track that, possibly using an economical standard. Secondly, the World Bank, again, I need to highlight that, is warning that we shouldn't take this loan, especially as we edge into the elections. What would happen if Nigeria and the presidency decide to ignore and go ahead and take it, and let's say after the elections it becomes a problem, especially not seeing what the monies were used for again?
So let me take it from the biggest one. I don't know if I'm correct, 2.25 billion economic stability. Now, you recall that our inflation rates, most of our macroeconomy has actually get some level of stability. But as an economist, we look at the well-being of people, not the statistics only. There must be correlation. It must reflect in the well-being of people. So if you look at it critically, yes, we have some figure maybe having the stability. But what about the well-being of people? What about the purchasing power? I can tell you the purchasing power is not actually there anymore. The disposable income are not enough for Nigerians to actually do well. You can also see the pump prices have translated to, some hardship for Nigeria. So if you ask me, for those loans that we have been getting, I don't really see it translating for now to well-being of people. The women empowerment, that's why sometimes the National Assembly have a lot of work to do. They are expecting to do the oversight and bring a scorecard so that Nigerians can actually see that, yes, $500 million was collected for women empowerment. How has it actually bettered? How many women has it been lifted out of poverty? 700 million for girl education. Have we actually built those classroom? So how many classrooms have we built? What have we developed over time? Now, the 800 million social safety net, I'm sure we all know conditional cash transfer, and we said the register is not what can be shown in public. But how many people can attest that, yes, I've collected some? We understand that most civil servants collected about, 40,000 and what have you during that period. But if you look at it, has it translated to well-being? Because some of us as an economy, sometimes we don't support this, cash giving out. It's bringing pressure to the economy, and it's too temporal. We prefer using it for actually a much more robust investment that can benefit people over time. So if you ask me, I think the well-being of Nigeria is what we can all see. And as our inflation actually come down beyond what it is now, the answer is still no. You recall that most of those indices, when the government came on board, were not up to this, right? So we are thinking they should take it down to where it's supposed to be. Let's even look at dollar to naira. It's still hovering around 1.314. So Nigeria has not actually get the benefit of those things that have been expending.
Mr. Elias,
Doctor, please.
Dr. Elias, forgive me. You've been talking about the oversight committee the National Assembly rejecting this bill, rejecting this move, as well as, the now Minister of the Economy also, standing tall and saying no to the president. But we've seen time and time again the politicization of our economy, whether it was in Muhammadu Buhari, the late president, and MFLA, and also now the former minister, Wale Odun, and the president. And now we're seeing a new minister just barely a year before this administration would end, and we wait for 2027. So my question is, do you think that they have the political will to say no to the president? Do you think that they can? Most importantly, does Taiwo Oyedele, our new minister, who was the tax collector from last year, is smiling, do you think he has it in him to stand up to the president and the National Assembly and advocate for a no for this move?
Right. I actually was laughing because I recall that the immediate past Minister of Finance actually have some kind of, we get to hear that there was a kind of altercation that he was trying to say no to some things that brings a lot of problems. However, this will be a score for the National Assembly. It will also be a score for even the president that, okay, we have been calling the National Assembly rubber stamp, but at this point in time, they rejected this loan. And President actually concurred simply because there is money, and it's going to be a political score for them. This is the type of campaign. They know how to actually do what they do better. However, I think at this point in time, in as much as we have more money coming from this war, I think we should actually reject this loan. Then remember, the oversight is on these people, so they need to do more. Well, the issue of rubber stamp or not rubber stamp. Pardon?
You're not answering the question. You're doing that thing where we're skirting around the answer, but we're not answering it. Do you think he has it? The minister, can he say no to the president?
Well, for his integrity's sake, I think it's what he should do. I'm not in his mind, but for me, I think that's what. But he has made mention of it earlier.
Yeah, but he was a minister at the time.
It's not good to actually vote.
Now, finally, right. Doctor.
So, but for me, politically, I think he can advise the president. He may not come out to say it.
Dr. Elias, finally, if you can in less than a minute, please. We've been taking this Bretton Woods institution loans for quite some time. And the alternative is the Chinese loans, which are tied to infrastructure development. And we do have evidence of these projects that they've executed in the last 10 years. Is it about time we rethink our sources for financing projects and, look at alternative means? What other alternative means are available to us beyond the World Bank and IMF?
Well, for me, every Bretton Woods decision have a global economy and politics, because they also have their own focus. So sometimes if they are giving you loan, it's because the loan actually align with their focus, and that's why we must be careful. And that's why I said earlier that this loan we are getting, are we sure to not bring a pressure on our tax or on our fiscal policy? Because they may come and say, yes, you must do X, Y, Z. But if you look at China loan, I can tell you most of their loan, in fact, they will come and execute it by themselves. So it will not be social safety net like we collect, get education, women empowerment. They are coming to actually do it, and they will execute that. You will see. An example is Abuja, Kaduna. You see them even managing it to an extent after the. So for me, I think I prefer such loans. So we also encourage President and the federal government to also look at that area and encourage World Bank to give loans that will benefit people in that manner, not that give us loan that it may appear soft or theory that we cannot see our practicality of the loan in the long run.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for speaking with us. We appreciate how you've been able to break this down. Let's wait and see. I think the onus, like one of my friends would always say, lies on the National Assembly. Thanks for your time.
Correct. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's tell you what's coming up next here on Breakfast Central. Coming up next, our guest is in the house and ready to go. We're talking to Funso Doherty as we look at the move, a countdown to 2027. Gabam docked over funds misappropriation. That's another story to look into. Plus, SDP will be in the House. They have a new presidential candidate. Stay with us.
Let's turn to one of the biggest stories making the rounds this week as a former governorship candidate in Lagos State, Funso Doherty, last week resigned his membership of the African Democratic Congress, ADC, to join Nigeria Democratic Congress, NDC. Now, in a statement announcing his defection last week, Doherty said he had hoped that the ADC would become a vehicle for opposition unity. According to him, he joined the NDC after, quote, after due consultations, careful deliberations, and prayerful reflections.
You recall that in April, he had announced his intention to contest the 2027 governorship election on the platform of the ADC, but the party is currently embroiled in leadership disputes, which has led to several stakeholders leaving and defecting from the party. And that's exactly what we've seen. They've moved to the Nigerian Democratic Congress. But let's have him here with us because he's here actually in person. And we'll be talking about a whole lot. Let's talk about the Lagos State politics and much more. Joining us is the man himself. Ladies and gentlemen, we do have Mr. Funso Doherty here with us. Thank you for being here.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Warm welcome to you.
Warm welcome. Thank you for joining us.
I think the first question would be a question that everyone has been asking. It's been a ride, if you put it that way. If we look from the political parties, I mean, it was the PDP of recent, then it was the ADC, and now the NDC, and all with the target to ensure that, like you said, that Lagos is liberated from the hands of the All Progressives Congress. First of all, you've moved in quick succession to the NDC. Can you confirm to us that this is as a result of the fact that the ADC is embroiled with a lot of political tussles, or is it as a result of the fact that the ADC's decision to run a political party is quite different from that of yours?
I mean, I think we are all witness to the turmoil that we've seen recently in the political space. The ADC, if you recall, was this vehicle that we all thought would be a place where the opposition could come together, be united, to fight a ruling party that has moved very aggressively to consolidate its power, you know, in many dimensions, using the privileges of office as well. So, of course, the ADC then itself was, I would say, also targeted and faced also its own share of challenges, both litigations and other types of challenges. Now, in addition to that, of course, there had been the simmering discussion about the ambitions of some of the principal actors within the ADC and how those will be resolved over time because, you know, people felt strongly about their ambitions. So ultimately, what then happened was that after the Supreme Court judgment on the ADC, which reinforced the uncertainty around the ADC by sending it back to the lower court to start that litigation process all over. Shortly after that, we had the decision of His Excellency Mr. Peter Obi, one of the principal actors, to move to the NDC. And once that happens, effectively, you have two blocks within what was once one bloc, the coalition. So for those of us who are within the party contesting at the regional level, such as myself, who is contesting the governorship race, you have to decide which of the two sides you're going to stand on, because no decision is not an option. You have to make a decision. And ultimately, the decision we made was that the NDC was the right decision for us. Ultimately, when you think about that decision, there are a couple of things that go into it. One is the legal uncertainties that we've said. The other is the political realities. And then finally is, you know, where do you feel most comfortable? Which do you think aligns most with your own individual values and that kind of thing? And ultimately, those are the three bases upon which I made the judgment that I made.
Okay.
Now, critics often say that defection in Nigerian politics are driven more by viability than ideology. Beyond the leadership crisis in the ADC, what concrete ideological or structural differences convinced you that NDC is better positioned to deliver governance in Lagos State, that vehicle which you want to ride upon to, get to governor's office in Alausa?
Well, if you look at a lot of what has happened in terms of the way people have moved across party, it's not in anybody's interest to be having to move from party to party. If you could stay in one party and the party was stable and it wasn't under threat from external factors and all of that, you wouldn't have any reason to move. So when people move and people say, you are jumping from one place to the other, let's be realistic. We're all witness to what is going on. So people are doing what they have to do to ensure that they can be in the game, to bring the benefits that they want to bring, or to do the work that they want to do. And I am not going to sit down somewhere and allow, the machinations that we see to leave you in a place where the work you want to do in government, you're not in a position to do. So you have to keep doing it. Somebody said, when you are running, and if you are running for your life, you're being chased by an animal, you won't stop and say, let me rest. You keep going.
But there's still people in the ADC as
now,
we speak.
Yes, but I explained to you the decision process that I went through. Mm-hmm. Someone else can go through that decision process and reach a different conclusion for themselves. It's an individual decision. Just as in the first place, we didn't all select the same party when we started out in politics. In the same way, when you have people who make individual decisions. For me, I just felt that the things I care about, which is bringing inclusive governance, particularly in Lagos, moving from a culture of extraction to a culture of inclusion, something that drives the benefit of governance to deliver the most for the greatest number. I think the platform, when I look at the two sides, the side that I think most aligns with that is the NDC. And, time will tell.
Right, time will tell indeed. I mean, do you also have to ask about your faith in the leadership of the NDC? Do you think that they have it in them to steer the ship both nationally and at state level to make the race come 2027 a three-man horse race or even a two-man horse race? And also, there's always been argument about new parties coming on the scene and not having the structure or the grassroots roots.
Yeah, I can speak to those two things.
So I want you to speak to on those two things.
So first of all, with the leadership of the NDC, I would say that the principal drivers behind the NDC are very experienced politicians. The national leader is Senator Serake Dixon, who, if you look at the political space and his political involvement in this space, there are very few people you will point to that will say have had more experience in their political trajectory than he has. He's very resolute. He shares the same values, in terms of people-centered governance. And so we have a lot of respect for him and belief in his leadership as a national leader. But beyond that, I think, if you look at even others within the constellation, call it that way, from those that are aspiring at the presidential level to those that are aspiring at the governorship level, it gives you that level of confidence. And I think that when I make such a decision, it's not taken lightly. And my decision to join should also be viewed as a signal, I think, of what I see. Now, your second question, which has to do with new parties and whether they have structure or not. You see, one thing you have to realize is that this thing that we call structure is actually human beings. It's not like buildings, right? It is human beings who are in the local governments, who are in the wards, and who are interacting with the electorate on behalf of the party. Now, these human beings are the same human beings. So in other words, the population of Alimosho local government area, the people there, do not change from necessarily, massively from one to the other. So the point I'm making is that the people that were within the PDP structure, many of them ended up in the ADC structure. And those same people, many of them are now in the NDC structure. Do you see what I mean?
Yes, I do.
So the structure is not a building that sits in PDP and cannot move. No, the structure is people. Mm-hmm. And as the people and as their leaders move, the people move. And so the structure remains. And so the ADC, when we were there, was made up of about 3 or 4 different tendencies. The same thing you find in NDC today. You find different tendencies of people who have followed that political journey. Because remember, there's something that is driving them. So they are all responding to the same thing and ending up, where they ultimately choose to end up.
That's a tough one, especially when the incumbent feels that the structure has got to do with one that has been built over the years. So they feel since a new party is coming, do they really have it built? Or they're about to start and then they want to go into the 2027 election. But in all of that said and done, there's a name that has been ringing, especially in the minds of Lagosians. There are 2 of them. One of them is the current deputy governor, who has gotten huge support from the APC, including the support from the president himself to run for the Lagos State governor. Also, you have another one who was part of the Obedient Movement, Labour Party, Adewole Roads, who has said, listen, I'm not going to move to the NDC. I'm going to stay in the ADC and I'll also compete. This means that if you are, of course, pick up the ticket and you're running, you will have to go head-to-head with these 2 names that have been mentioned. Do you think that the NDC stands an equal chance, especially looking at the APC and what it's done in Lagos State and with the support that the deputy governor is getting?
Let me start with the answer to the conclusive answer to your question, and I'll come and explain why. The conclusive answer to your question is that not only do we stand a chance, we stand an excellent chance. And we stand a better chance in 2027 than we have in any cycle that I can remember previously, and I'll explain why. Yes, you may say that the deputy governor enjoys support within his party. I expect him to enjoy his support within his party. That's his party, right? So they may have chosen to endorse him, and he will be their candidate if ultimately they bring it to fruition. That does not mean he's the candidate of the people, right? Now, when you even think about the APC and their sojourn in Lagos, I will argue that there's no evidence that APC is a popular party. Yes, they are in office. But if you look at the last election, for example, Lagos has 7-point-something million registered voters. The total votes cast in the last election was about 1,000,001, 1,000,002, something like that. That's 15%. Of which APC probably got about 700,000. So they were elected on 700,000 votes. Out of 7 million registered voters, just 10% of registered voters, in a population of almost 20 to 30 million. So there's no evidence that that is a popular government, right? Now, if you think about 1 million out of 7 million votes, that is 1 out of 7. That means for every 1 person that came and voted, 6 people who could have voted and were registered either did not come or whatever, did not vote. So if 1 out of those 6 people that did not come comes, the vote will go from 1 million to 2 million votes. You see the point? So depending on how that extra vote goes, the outcome could be just dramatically different from what you see presently. It would have been a different thing if APC was elected with 6 million out of the 7 million votes. Do you see what I mean?
I get that.
Then you are in a different ball game, right? So now, I will just add to that, sort of in conclusion of this answer to your question, that you and I are living in Nigeria, we are living in Lagos. We see what people are going through over the last 4 years. The other day I was in a car, the guy was driving me, and all he was talking about throughout the time he was driving me was how the fortunes of his business. He's just a driver. He drives a vehicle, a commercial vehicle. How the fortunes of his business have dramatically declined as petrol has gone from 200 to 1,300. This is one factor. Can you imagine what 200 to 1,300 does to somebody who petrol is his biggest cost?
That's like 40%, 35% increase?
That's hundreds of percent, actually. So now that's just one thing. There are many other things that impact the quality of life of the people. So the electorate is in a very difficult place, far more difficult than they were in the last cycle and the cycle before that. So there's a lot of discontent in the system. So I think that many of the assumptions that APC has been in power for 30 years and they are unassailable and all of that. I think all of those things must be taken with a huge pinch of salt. Let's just observe. Let's wait and see. I think 2027 will be an unusual, and you can see already that it is unusual in terms of even the political gladiators that are moving up and down, the things that the politicians are doing. You can see that it's an unusual environment.
Right.
Let me just quickly, if you talk to politicians who have been in this game for 50, 60 years, there are people in their 80s, and you ask them, have you seen a political environment like this before? They will tell you no. That we've seen many different kinds of political environment, but this one, we don't understand it. I have been to 3 conventions.
Yeah.
in the last 6 months. 3 political party conventions.
PDP, ADC.
Yes.
NDC.
I was in Ibadan. I was in Abuja for the ADC. And just this last weekend, I was in Abuja for the NDC. Do you think I want to go to 3 conventions? If I could have gone to 1 convention, that's what I would have done.
But let's come back to Nigeria's present realities and talk about the facts on ground. A lot of people are living below the poverty line, and that would be a huge contributory factor to the elections. It's your second outing, chasing the governorship seat. So I'm sure lessons have been learned from 2023 and strategies will change, and you've shared some of them with us here today. But looking at the juggernaut that is the APC in Lagos State, they've been there since 1999 and in different forms though. And people, and just this morning on our wake-up conversations, we were showing a story of, Ghana must go bags stuffed with envelopes of cash. It was written, Bola Ahmed Tinubu Empowerment, Cash Empowerment Program. We've seen a lot of poverty, illiteracy, and economic strife in the country. And unfortunately, many people have been victims of the weaponization of poverty by the political class. So how do you intend? Do you have a huge... Lagos State is they have the highest IGR in the country. Its economy is bigger than that of most West African countries. So what war chest are you going to, the financial war chest, which, we can't do without money politics in Nigeria and in most parts of the world. So how would you convince the people to try something different and vote for you?
Well,
as against those who are making it rain, as they say in rap music.
Look, the question you're asking is an interesting one. Look, will we have as much cash or resources to deploy as the incumbent government? If that's part of the question, the answer to that is no. We will not. Because they have all the resources, including, some of the resources of the state to apply. For example, at the federal level, now, there's something
Those are very heavy allegations, that.
No, well, okay. We can go into it. So there's a renewed hope agenda that is being rolled out across the federation today, which was announced by a press statement coming directly, official press statement from the presidency, talking about how APC governors and so on. So this is what we see. I'm not making stuff up. But let's leave that because, the question that you asked is a different one. Now, you see, this election it's not going to be about us having to convince everybody that they need something else. People know that they need something else. We will do our work. You understand? We will do our work. But if people don't believe that they need a change, all the work that you are trying to do will not succeed. But people have to be at a place where they know that their situation, right, is not ideal and can be changed.
But talking about people that might not need a change, you know, they see the, I guess the standards have dropped, or they have low expectations. Because when you compare the APC Lagos state to other states in Nigeria, they think, wow, this is Dubai, this is Singapore, compared to other states. IGR, they see the rail.
So let me just jump in.
And all of those things.
Let me jump in here. Most people are not thinking the way you are thinking. Most people are not thinking about what is happening in Dubai. They are not thinking about GDP. Do you understand? Most people are thinking, you know, they don't have water. The other day, there was somebody campaigning in Lagos Island. And what was he campaigning with? He was taking water to them in tankers. This is somebody who is in the ruling party that has been there for 30 years. Do you see what I mean? Isn't it an indictment if you are taking water to people in a tanker, if you have been governing a place for 30 years? Isn't it an indictment? So people know, and people know what they are experiencing. They know what they're experiencing in terms of transportation. They know what they're experiencing in terms of healthcare. They know what they're experiencing in terms of education. In Lagos State public schools, for example.
But when we look at the local government elections, there were not really that many turnout as well. So there's also an issue of low voter turnout.
You were going somewhere with the...
But I'll come back to this, your point.
There's no time, that's why.
Now, that education, take like education. In Lagos in 2024, do you know that of the children in public schools in Lagos State, more failed than passed? The failure rate was 50-something%. Official data from Lagos State, this thing. That means if you put a child in Lagos State public school, that child is more likely to fail than they are to pass, based on that data, right? So this is the reality. You can say GDP is whatever. You can say that when you go to cities around the world, and you ask, is this a developed city? You don't ask how many bridges do they have, how many roads do they have, right? Or you don't ask what is happening in Dubai. You ask about the people there. What is the quality of their healthcare? What is the quality of their education? What is the quality? What is their human development indicators? You got it. So that is what and when you measure on that basis, which is what people are living every day, the answer is quite clear. What was the point you...
No, voter turnout, how to inspire them. There's no time. I wish we could have enough time to answer that question where we keep getting prompted. I must say thank you, Mr. Funso Doherty, for taking out the time to join us. We hope, we wish you success in this new outing.
Thank you.
And we hope for the best. Let's go on a short break. When we return, it's going to be more conversations on the opposition in Nigeria. Stay with us.
You're welcome back to Breakfast Central. The Social Democratic Party, SDP, has adopted its 2023 presidential candidate, Adewole Adebayo, as its flag bearer for the 2027 presidential election through a consensus arrangement at the party's national convention in Bauchi. During the convention, delegates also endorsed Professor Sadiq Gombe as national chairman and inaugurated a new national working committee. Adebayo criticized Nigeria's economic hardship, insecurity, and what he described as a drift towards a one-man rule, accusing the ruling All Progressive Congress, APC, of undermining democratic competition. He praised Bauchi State Governor Bala Mohammed for allowing the convention to hold peacefully and urged Nigerians to use democratic process to demand change.
The convention, which held amid internal crisis, saw the expulsion of the party's former national chairman, Shehu Gabam, and other executives over alleged anti-party activities. Gabam rejected the expulsion, describing the convention as unconstitutional and alleging interference by Governor Bala Mohammed, claims the governor's camp denied. Gambam's faction insisted it would hold a separate legitimate convention in Abuja later in May. We're now joined by SDP's 2027 presidential candidate, Mr. Adewole Adebayo. He joins us virtually. A very good morning to you, sir, and welcome to the program.
Good morning to you all. May God bless Nigeria.
Good morning. Let's first of all start with the internal leadership crisis and factional disputes within the SDP. Just days, or should I say, just as how other parties are, closing ranks and getting prepared for 2027, seeing the internal crisis happening and the factional disputes, what is your sentiments, towards it, and what's the pathway to resolution?
I don't have time to waste on that. I'm not running for president to discuss party issues, and it's for journalists to investigate and to know the meaning of words, whether there are factions or no factions, or whether the party is just an organization that has its own rules, including discipline and all of that. But the reason why I'm running for president is to be able to solve the problems of the country. And Nigerians are not waking up in the morning and being disturbed by what happens in political parties. Nigerians wake up in the morning thinking about how their God-given resources can be used by their government to solve their problems. And every government has 4 years to go. And now we are getting to the end of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's government. And Nigerians are taking stock as to whether this additional 4 years added to the 8 years of President Buhari and then the 8 years of President Goodluck Jonathan before, and going back in time, whether in our lifetime we are going to have a government that works for us. That's why I'm in politics, and that is why many people want to mean.
Mr. Adebayo, I believe the reason my colleague asked is that because, first off, congratulations to you on your emergence as the flag bearer of the Social Democratic Party. And the reason she asked is because the process that made you emerge as flag bearer is disputed by a certain individual called Shehu Gabam. And they say before you can think of Nigeria as a whole, you need to put your house in order. And it seems that house is not in order because there's somebody or a group of individuals causing problems there. But that aside, this would be your second consecutive outing as the flag bearer of the Social Democratic Party. What would you do differently this time around, and why is it important? Why are you seeking the #1 office in the land?
Well, it's the same problem we've had. I don't know, many of us who talk with our parents, which I encourage us to do, they will tell us that the problems we are facing now were the same problems they faced in their own youth. So our problems are, in my generation at least, our problems are older than us. And what we are trying to do is to make sure we don't lead problems to our children. You had Mr. Doherty telling you that even in Lagos Island, in many parts of Lagos, that has seen many governments since the colonial times, don't have water. In a modern city, which is regarded as the premier city of Nigeria, and during colonial times, we used to have water everywhere. At a time, in this country, in the Commonwealth, in the English-speaking world, Lagos has the best water, better than London, Brisbane, Ottawa, anywhere. And so this level of degeneration, where we are discussing education by way of reference to failure than success, where we are talking of security, we're traveling around the whole of Nigeria, and even people in government warn you, why are you going to that place? After our convention in Bauchi, we were thinking of a place to camp and do some brainstorming about manifesto and all of that. And we went to Yankari Game Reserve. We were there. We were the only people there. Such a beautiful national treasure. And many people, or some people, refused to go. They said, no, I don't want to risk my life. For what? So what I'm letting you know is that it is not necessary to ask anyone why they are running anymore. It is whether they have solutions, because the problems are obvious. Every business, including yours, relies on its own alternative power supply. Even the president of Nigeria does not believe in his own minister of darkness or minister of electricity. He had to take 17 billion of our money to go off-grid. So when the president of a country goes off-grid of that country for electricity, and the president of the country goes off the reservation, goes abroad for his medication, when the people who are in government don't believe in government, they don't put their children in government school, they don't use government hospitals, they don't rely on government utilities, it is too rich to ask the question, why am I in the race? I'm in the race to have a country, a civilization that can take benefit of the 21st century and let people live as if at least we're part of the modern world. There's no aspect of social engineering that we have done well. And there is no portion of the Constitution that we are operating well. Whereas this country has everything it takes, everything is available to be able to get our people to live a meaningful life where they can develop and stay in the country. And there is no magic other than what Chinua Achebe diagnosed in 1982, that leadership is the problem of Nigeria. And by our constitution, the leadership at the national level is vested in the president. So you elect a good president, then the rest of good things will follow. You elect a not so good president, there is no amount of magic that will change the outcome. And if you look at the way we are mismanaging our economy, we are vandalizing the economy deliberately. So it's not as if we are in a situation where the economy is complicated and it's difficult to run. No. This is the equivalent of a bank manager working with armed robbers to rob the bank. It's not a banking problem. No, it is sheer criminality. So that's why I'm letting us understand that the thing we need to pay attention to is to change the quality, direction, and content of our government. All other things we spend airtime salivating about, entertaining ourselves about. I don't know whether they are coping therapies, but this is not the hallmark of a seriously well-oriented society, where we spend most of our airtime on things that don't point to the problems that we have. The problem we have is poor leadership. And if you look at it, it looks like I spend a lot of time criticizing President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I am not criticizing President Bola Ahmed Tinubu because it's fun to do so. I am criticizing him because it's a symbol of what we have got wrong. What we've got wrong is the fact that you have a president who doesn't understand the ethical boundaries of presidency. He doesn't have even the work ethic. He doesn't have the value to lead as a head of state. He doesn't understand economics or ignores economics. He makes very bad decisions, and when you complain, he makes worse decisions. So in that kind of situation, when the executive powers of the country are vested in him, then there is no room for maneuver anymore. So you need to be serious about who becomes president. And there are secondary issues that people talk about, ethnicity, region, zoning, and things like that. It is not a fashion parade. It is an intellectual office. It is an ethical office. It's a philosophical office. It's a military office. And you need to equip the person who is going to go in there. And to equip the person, you need to critique the person, ask detailed questions about the person's familiarity with that office, because people took it for granted that because President Tinubu was governor of Lagos, he was going to be fairly familiar with the presidency. It turns out that he's totally at sea. He doesn't know what the presidency is about. He doesn't have the mentality, the composure, the ethical content to do it. And that's why we're in trouble. There's nothing fundamentally flawed in our economy. There's nothing structurally defective in the economy. It's just that the economy is now at a free fall. You will see 8 men, 9 men forming the government, speaker, president of the Senate, leadership, passing appropriation act, padded with so many unconstitutional, self-serving provisions. At the same time, economically unsound. But what's worse, none of them is interested in implementing the budget. So we've had 3 years of budgets, appropriation acts passed by the National Assembly, assented by the President, none implemented at all. And when we started criticizing the President, they did worse. They consolidated the 3 appropriations into one, obeying none of them. So why are you therefore saying that the student has failed if the student who is studying medicine is given the curriculum of agriculture? He's going to fail medicine. And being given the curriculum of agriculture still won't do 1/3 of the course content in agriculture. So neither knows agriculture nor medicine, but he's going to have a certificate saying he's a medical doctor. So the way the economy is being mismanaged, the Appropriation Act so far is an excuse to access government money and go to private hands. And you will see so many things. So that's why it is fundamental that if anyone is being called to the public who is seeking the office of president, there should be presidential level questions for the person with pure information, clear statistics, official data to interrogate that person's familiarity with the function of the office. And I think that is where I make a difference for the Nigerian people.
Okay, supporters of the president have asked that the president should be given more time. They said it's its turn, just like it was the turn of the then former late President Muhammadu Buhari, who had completed his 8 years in office. And supporters are saying President Bola Ahmed Tinubu must complete his 8 years in office. Just to do that, while he's asking for more time, I mean, he's planning to borrow $1.25 billion, approximately about 1.7 trillion naira, to use it to fix the economy, as it were. And, you know, supporters have said it's a continuous process. You do not expect him to just fix the economy. It's actually what he meant that he's trying to correct. So don't you think that maybe the president should just finish his, 4 more years to complete his 8 years before other politicians are already, moving up and down to ensure that he's out of office?
First, these years, people are counting. You are counting lives of people. If you have a hospital where the chief medical director allows 800 patients to die in a month and is finishing his term, you're not going to listen to anyone who says, well, let him do 4 more years so that 800 people can be dying in a month. You are counting human lives here. Nigeria is not about President Tinubu, neither is it about me. Nigeria is about the people who live in it, and they deserve their God-given right to succeed. Children who were born in President Tinubu's time, if you look at it, in 4 years, they will be in primary school, and another 4 years, they should be writing common entrance. So if there is no proper education for them, you are raising a new generation that will not succeed, no matter how much you pray about it. Those who graduated when President Tinubu was being sworn in, majority of them have not got jobs now. And if they remain untrained at any workplace, they become economic liability and they start to age out into resigned unemployment. If you look at the people who are being killed by Boko Haram, by Lakurawa, by other terrorists, they don't have one more day to spare on a president that is absent-minded and incompetent on the job. It is also problematic when the president is unteachable, because there is no amount of talking that you can do that President Tinubu is going to change, because his own philosophy of government, he is successful because he's more about power consolidation. And those who are around him saying you should give him more time, they are saying give us more time to consolidate without solving any of the problems. So what is important is for us to realize that the office doesn't belong to anyone. It's a place of work. And if you are doing the work, people can allow you to continue. If you're not doing the work, you should not be allowed. And President Tinubu himself said, if I don't give you electricity in 4 years, don't vote for me. And not only is not giving us electricity, he cannot give himself electricity. And when you see the changes he makes in his government, he doesn't make changes that conduce to better efficiencies at work. He makes excuses for his failures, and he makes even the next decision is worse. For example, he had Wale Edun as finance minister. Wale Edun had a shortage of courage to discipline the government in terms of the fiscal side. I'm not too comfortable with Cardoso, but on the monetary side, you will say that Cardoso at least has C minus. But in the case of Wale Edun, he had like a D. Then President Tinubu needed to make a change. What did he do? He sent Wale Edun away and brought a tax collector who knows nothing about the economy, who is going to have F in every aspect of the economy. And that's a person who's going to go to World Bank, go to IMF, go to other international economic unions that we belong to. That's the person who's going to stimulate productivity, who's just an untrained tax collector. So, and that's how he wants to run the economy. That's the equivalent of Awolowo, that's the equivalent of Okonjo-Iweala, that's the equivalent of many great finance ministers we've had. So I think that the more you give President Tinubu time, the more you give him room to mess up. So I think that he wouldn't mind if we get him voted out. What is also more important is that in our democracy, we must have plurality. And President Tinubu is asphyxiating the oxygen, the Nigerian democracy, depriving it of oxygen, and creating a system that is perverse and patently corrupt. Because when you have a system where political parties, which are the platforms on which you run a democracy, are undermined, and you are having a one-man rule, even his own political party, they do not have any democratic processes, and it's just everybody waiting for that one man to dictate who is going to run in every part of Nigeria. You've seen grown men cry on television, crying like babies, former governors crying, former ministers crying, weeping, that they went to beg the president to give them a ticket, and he didn't give it to them. Whereas Chapter 2 of the Constitution, Fundamental Objectives and Directive Principles of State Policy, says that Section 13, that power comes from the people, and it is from them that the government gets the power. So we need to go back to the fundamentals. So President Tinubu is not just not performing, that one is obvious, but is digging up the foundation of our democracy to the point where the next person who comes has to fill all of that hole again before we start to climb. And one more point, if there is time for it.
Go ahead.
The president is a moral hazard to the country. So even if he was doing well in the economy, which is not, we still have a duty to vote him out because he's a moral hazard. Because this is the only president anywhere in the world, and I can be educated if there's another one like him, maybe some far away place. This is the only president who says openly by himself in Lagos, in public, that at the launch of a government finance project, that the contractor is his business partner. Normally, the National Assembly should immediately have convoked and served an article of impeachment, because under our Constitution and based on our Code of Ethics, the President of Nigeria is not supposed to have a business partner. If he had a partner before, he's supposed to resign from that partnership, and if he had any assets in that business, he's supposed to put the asset under trust, blind trust, and he's supposed to also issue a decree making sure that those businesses don't interact or transact with the government throughout his tenure. But he is now saying openly that, well, so-and-so businessman whose project I'm launching today is my business partner and we're going to do a lot of business together. So that moral decay is now seeping into the country. And the people who are supposed to serve the public are now all over the place, being the contractors in the government in which they run by themselves. That combination makes transparency to be a crime. In Nigeria of today, in Tinubu's Nigeria, being honest, being transparent, being different is seen as a crime. And we need to not allow that to be the new culture in our politics, because when that becomes the new culture in our politics, we are going to go back to Italy's Berlusconi. It is a system where the business and the government have become one, and you are now running a mafia, essentially, not running a government of the republic. So now, the fact that Tinubu has all these terrible attributes doesn't automatically mean that I'm the perfect person for presidency. I have to still make a case. And the reason why I'm making a case to show that I will do much better, I will do differently, and I will do what Nigerians need is that I understand that we all have that commitment to follow Chapter 2 of the Constitution, fundamental objectives and directive principles of state policy. No matter how brilliant you are, no matter how resourceful you are, if you don't follow that, you will not be able to address the human development indices that you need to put the country forward. You will not be able to, you will not remember that you need to secure the lives of the people and put government resources for their welfare. Not only, when you say government resources, we do not only mean the money or the solid minerals, even the government time. Does government have time for the Nigerian people? Do you write a letter to your president or governor or speaker or minister and get a reply? If you take letters to government offices, sometimes you have to pay money for somebody to receive the letter from you. So when you are talking of spending on the welfare of the people, it means that even in many countries of the world, if you go to the president's office, they keep a diary of who comes to see the president, how much time they spend, what they discuss, because they want to make sure that the president's time is devoted for the affairs of the people. So those so many areas in which I'm going to revolutionize the government and give us a new path, because what we are doing now, calling democracy, calling government, is actually barbarity as its worst state.
You've put your bid to run for office side by side with what appears to be, at this point, a juggernaut, the APC. But one of the elements we're not looking here is the umpire, and that is INEC and Amopita. We've seen the new bill that's now been signed into law, the Electoral Act of 2026, and so far so good. We've also seen the moves by the INEC when it comes to ensuring result transmission and the likes, and also low voter turnout as well that we've seen from the off-cycle elections and the local government elections as well. I would like for you to speak on transparency, fairness, result transmission, and ensuring that INEC stays neutral in this entire process leading to 2027.
The gap between Nigeria as written in the books and Nigeria in reality is like daylight and utter darkness. INEC is a particularly corrupt place. Before you even address the issue of Amupiton, just know that INEC as a government institution is innately corrupt, and they are corruptible, and they've taken that corruption as a culture. So if you have 11 national commissioners, you have hundreds of directors, you have 37 resident electoral commissioners, I can tell you, you will be lucky to have 2% who understand why they are there. And many people who are put in INEC are put there for their lack of courage, and they have screened them and found out that these people just want a place where they can enjoy their lives, take some perquisites of office. There is no robust debate going on in INEC. So that institution is fundamentally not well equipped to do the function that is given to it. So it's like you are setting up Super Eagles to go and play at the World Cup. And with due respect to those who are visually impaired, if the person you put there as the goalkeeper is completely blind, and the striker that you put there is on wheelchair, so you have given them opportunity as citizens, that's not a problem, but don't complain if you don't win the World Cup, because you have other citizens who you could put in those positions, and these ones you put in this place where they don't fit, you actually have put them in the Paralympic or something or somewhere else. So when it comes to INEC, the government has the authority to set up INEC. That's a big mistake, because the government itself needs INEC to survive. And President Tinubu, when he was looking for a Mukpiton, wasn't looking for a pristine Nigeria. He wasn't looking for a fearless Nigerian. He was recruiting an enabler. They were trying to recruit someone whom they will put in office. He will be in office, but they will continue to tell him what to do, whom he can collect a letter from, which party he can register, which party he will not register, who will recognize, who will not recognize. If there's any political party they want to engender crisis into, they can always use INEC to do it. So that's the whole philosophy around INEC. And that is why when Yar'Adua came and he wanted to address this problem, he set up the Lawal Justice Muhammad Lawal Uwe's panel, and the panel diagnosed what I am telling you now, that INEC as constituted can never succeed in doing the work, and that we needed to set up an INEC that is independent of the government of the day. Also, that the recruitment of the INEC leadership should be more rigorous and more transparent than the recruitment of justices. And it must be people already well known in society to be above board and to have some ethical strength.
Okay.
None of that is done. So don't cry for INEC and don't wait for miracles. What we are just doing now is vigilante electioneering, where I am running for president, not because I trust INEC, but because I'm hoping that with some vigilante activism, we can get the citizens to now take the electioneering into their own hands, come out and start watching INEC with suspicion. Don't trust anything they are doing, but I can tell you it's not just personal to Amukpiton.
Okay.
Amukpiton, I've known him as a lawyer. He's a good lawyer. He's a good lawyer, teacher of a law of evidence, but he's not fit for that position because of the manner in which he was appointed and the manner in which that organization is set up. He can't succeed. So what we can do, one, is to try to give him some moral boost and try to save him from the government, because every day they tell him what to do. I can tell you that categorically. Secondly, for the citizens to know that don't rely on INEC for anything. Come out and make sure that if you vote, don't sell your vote. If you vote, make sure your vote counts. If they don't transmit the result right there, nobody goes home. That's how you can make something out of democracy.
Now, finally, Mr. Adebayo, I have two questions for you, but I guess you've answered the first part of the question, because your indictment on INEC is quite serious, and then people will be wondering, if you don't have faith in the umpire, why are you throwing your hat in elections that will be conducted by INEC?
I have faith in the country, but not in the umpire.
But you've answered the question. Now let's get straight to it. The last time the opposition unseated president, it was due to a broad-based coalition. You are one person amongst a feud of other candidates that are seeking the #1 office in the land. Are you open to a broad-based coalition, even if it means power sharing of some sort? And what conditions would you demand before that would happen? That's if you're open to it, because we've diagnosed the problems here on the program this morning. The reason why you're vying for office is to, do the treatment. So, but in order for you to do the treatment, you need to be elected to get to the office. So, what's your strategy?
The strategy is simple. Do exactly what you are saying, but do it with the people. What I find most fascinating, though painfully so, about Nigerians is that what is our responsibility? We leave it to other people. It is the way the people go, that's how the coalition is going to go. Remember, 2 months ago, I was under intense pressure. Oh, SDP, you are going it alone. You are not, we are this coalition. I've had meetings with all of them, and I told them exactly what's going to happen, and it's happening to them exactly the way I say it will happen at the time it's going to happen. I was the secretary of the conference that took place in Ibadan. After we put the framework together, I realized these people are not serious people and they are not sincere. And I told them, I'm not going to come with you to Ibadan because this is just, you guys are not serious. And when you get to Ibadan, all of you are going to take photographs and talk blah, blah, about Tinubu. And 2 weeks later, you will splinter into different political parties and start to attack each other. I don't want to be part of that nonsense. What we need to do before you think of sharing power, you have to share responsibility. We have to know what are we going to do in government. I am not going to join anyone to defeat Tinubu and bring Tinubu's look alike, think alike, act alike to the government. I'm not desperate to be anything. I just want a good country that works. What I want us to do now is to first have this conversation about what government is about. I've seen different groups, we are talking with them. When I've seen 1 or 2 that are talking sense in terms of we know the country cannot afford to be a mess, and we need to convince the rest of the world that we're serious people and we can form a modern government. So these are the ingredients of that government. And that's why if you saw at our national convention, you will see people like Prophet El Buba there, you will see Professor Usman Bugaje, you will see the Afenifere, you will see many Sagagi, many other people in the country who have been thinking of what do we do in government. There must be a minimum requirement to be a president, a governor. Even if you are hiring a driver, house help these days, you have minimum requirements. Politics cannot be something that all comers come. Then, can we be lawful? Can we be constitutional? Can we agree to certain projects that we need to do for the people? There are other people also we are talking who talk about it's our turn. My people have not produced president before. If you want to be fair, give it to me. That was the sentiment that brought Kulo Jonathan to government. And the people of Niger Delta, I'm sure they wouldn't mind to have good roads, electricity, resources given to them without Kulo Jonathan representing them in government. What people want is to be able to live in a country that the government functions at all levels. The same argument was used to try to convince me about Buhari. And it's the time of the North. Let us, calm the North down. And we wasted 8 years, which could be 80 years for other people whose lives have been negatively impacted in those 8 years of President Buhari. And now President Tinubu came with his Yoruba turn. I don't know where it's written anywhere there's Yoruba turn. And he says it's also my turn because I'm the Yoruba man who's on your side. And he's been there now. He's not able to do anything. So these conversations have to change. And when the conversations change and we all come together, it will be easy. Because I will know now that we are forming a government. This is what we want to achieve in the next 4 years. These are the standards for being government. And anybody who doesn't meet the standard is not coming in there. And we can all come out. And if it takes 20 years to have that conversation, I'm ready for it. Because what matters is that this generation cannot continue by way of rote to learn the bad politics that has taken us to where we are now. We need to form government that works. Government means electricity, water, employment, safety, clean street, parking refuse, keeping children in school and teaching them properly, people going to have medical care, having 4-year compulsory, four tests in a year. You have to do 4 free medical checks for every citizen a year. Everybody has a family doctor. This is the only country where people have a headache or they feel sick. They say, which hospital should I go? The citizens used to have family doctors before. You know your doctor. But doctor is Dr. Ajayi, is Dr. Emeka, is Dr. Usman. We used to have it before. So we know where we are going after school and things like that.
All right.
That's the kind of thing I want to talk about.
Okay.
Anybody wants to talk about it, is my partner.
Okay. I mean, just to wrap things up, because we need to move to the front pages of the newspapers. Just final question. I mean, since you're running, aren't you scared? Let me use the word scared, because even though many would say you are a fearful person, you're ready to face danger headlong. Aren't you worried, better still, that there's a problem with vote splitting? I mean, the last elections, 2023, we did see the three-horse race. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu currently splitting votes with former Vice President Ekubo, and then Mr. Peter Obi in the rate of 6 million, and of course about 7 to 8 million. And now you're about to join that race as well. Aren't you worried that maybe the three-horse race, which borders on former President Mr. Peter Obi and yourself, would actually split the votes, which inadvertently will give the APC just an easy slide to win and continue for the next 4 years?
Let me answer the question respectfully, but you answer a very good question, which represents the laziness of our philosophy. We are not a thinking people anymore. First, splitting votes is not a problem. You must split votes in an election. The problem is the apathy. How can you have 93 million registered voters, 89 million collected their PVC, and 70-something million will not show up? That is where you should worry yourself about. It's not about splitting votes. It's supposed to be split. My concern is to make sure that more people come out and get interested in their country. You are being killed, you are being maimed, your children are being shipped out of the country. Every person who has up to 10 million naira in their pocket is taken out to go to one embassy and leave the country. You should be worried about that, and you have extremely low voter turnout. You don't care about your democracy, and the few that are coming out, the so-called votes you say they are splitting, one, many of them are just imaginary votes credited by INEC because they wouldn't transmit the result properly. Secondly, many of them came to sell their vote for Indomie, for 5,000 naira, and all of that. So that is not the kind of vote you should be thinking about. What we should be diagnosing is, why do we have a society that appears to have people who are apathetic to the point of being suicidal, to the point that anything they can do to rescue themselves from the shackles of perennial underdevelopment and poverty, they go to every mountain to pray, every river to swim, every religious center to yap their head off about how they are suffering. And when they need to organize themselves together, just put the thumbprint and thumbprint themselves out of poverty, they will not show any interest. So that is the concern there. People should not worry about me splitting the vote they shared last time. I'm going to bring new voters. And if I don't succeed in bringing new voters into the mix, I will fail in my bid for the presidency. But if I succeed in bringing new voters into the fold, I will win the presidency. So my job is to go out and bring new voters. If I succeed in that, I've made a great contribution to Nigeria. And the voters I'm bringing, since I don't pay bribe, I don't give you any gift, I only give you the program that we're going to run for you. If you like, you vote for me. If you like, you don't vote for me. But I've made a case to you as to why we need to change our situation in this country.
So
God is not punishing us.
Adebayo, as we wrap up, that means you fall in the category of not giving shishi. That means nothing will be given. Because earlier this morning... The difference
between my own is that I don't say it publicly and give it secretly. Those who say it publicly, they give it secretly. My own,
who are these
what I say, those who popularize that saying, they are the ones who spend most of the money on it, but they just pretend. But in my own case, they know I don't, and I don't even discuss it. The key issue is that I need to produce citizens before I can produce governors and presidents. Our failure in Nigeria is that we cannot produce citizens who care enough about the country. But we want to produce presidents who care. That doesn't work that way. You have to build the democracy from its foundation. And I can tell you, we can do it. We will do it despite all the distraction. Nigeria is a great and beautiful country. And we are a people who need to use our freedom before we lose it. Just like if you don't use your muscle, you will lose it. If you don't use your brain, you will lose it. If you don't use your talent, you will lose it. If you don't use your freedom, you will lose it. And we cannot afford to lose our freedom.
All right. Thank you so much, Prince Adewole Adebayo. the SDP presidential candidate for the 2027 election. Thank you for joining us, and thanks for sharing your thoughts.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and may God bless Nigeria.
God bless Nigeria, indeed. You're watching Breakfast Central here on News Central Television. We go on a short break. When we come back, we bring you in-depth analysis on the front pages of our newspapers for today. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us. And now we are going to get into one of the most anticipated segments on the Breakfast Central, and that is our newspaper front pages review. I've got quite the lineup for you as usual, but first, let me welcome our guest, public affairs analyst Theophilus Akatuba. He joins us live in the studio. Good morning to you.
You see that smile there?
Good morning, Mr. Akatuba.
Introduction.
It's
a pleasure to be here.
A pleasure to have
see
you.
Beautiful people.
Welcome.
Beautiful brothers and sisters.
Funny thing is, he comes on set and then he asked Gbenga, so what's happening with Nigeria? And then I go, aren't you in Nigeria? He says, oh, I've been away. I just got back 20 minutes ago.
So I want to know what's
so
happening.
Let's get straight into what's happening in Nigeria by bringing you the front page of the Tribune. Remember, you could call in and share your thoughts with us. We'll display the numbers on the screen. We like to keep things interactive here on the newspaper headline review. Okay, front page of the Nigerian Tribune. It seems like there's trouble in paradise, and this is what you get when you don't have internal democratic processes, as our guest just said now, that the guest, Prince Adewole Adebayo, that we had, he said people, grown men, are crying. Going to Mr. President saying, please endorse me, please give me your blessings. Consensus option shaky as 101 aspirants eye 28 Goba tickets. You would need Solomonic wisdom in this sort of situation. Kwara leads with 16, for one position, 16 aspirants. Oyo 11. Yayi Hamzat get challengers in Ogun and Lagos. That Lagos challenger is quite brave, you know, after GAC and Mr. President's endorsement. Mutuang Fubara Alia face opposition. Borno's consensus successful. Professor Babagana Zulum has scaled. He's fine for now until it goes to the elections. Let's start with that. Mr. Akatuba.
Yes.
How do we prevent this sort of situation from happening? And is there really a consensus with our opposition?
No, this is a beautiful development, very commendable development. We should be very proud of ourselves and be happy that the reforms are beginning to yield fruit. They have the politicians themselves, and all of them gathered and they reformed the electoral laws and was able to put this clause that consensus or direct primaries, and the consensus also have processes. And so that has made the fact that the politicians and every Nigeria, we're not democratic. Internal democracy is absent in the political parties. It is being forced on them. And so this is a beautiful development. And it's not about consensus shaking. We should say the primaries are off to a big contestation. And we need contest to get the right candidates. And so no one should be godfathered into office. No one should be handpicked into office. But anywhere they have succeeded, kudos to them. But I appreciate the fact that some people say, no, I don't need the consensus.
So how do you deal with dissenting voices now? Those that are saying,
this is the true test of APC's supposed peaceful cohesion. We say the party is cohesive, is better than the opposition, they are very organized. This is a true test. Because every opposition have always said that let the primaries come and go, then we know whether APC is truly devoid of problems. So now we see this contest, and I'm very happy.
We are saying, how do they move past this?
They should allow things to flow in a manner that satisfies all interest. There is no need to bully anyone to submission. There's no need to force any candidate. Where there is no consensus, they should conduct the direct primaries. And those direct primaries should be conducted transparently, because they also want to have a transparent election when they confront INEC. Charity should begin at home.
Okay.
Yes, indeed. Let's move on to more here. Earlier, we were talking about the issue of. All right, let's take the tribunal. So when we look at the top, still it's pretty much still politics. Oyo APC leader endorses Adelabu's governorship bid. That is quite interesting. We know
endorsing
that
him based off his performance as power minister.
Based off of his performance as power minister. What do you make of that move? And what does it say about the APC regarding its choice of candidates or its choice of, or the way they sort of confirm?
And that's the picture there.
Just at the top.
When you look at, if you compare results across the country, you are quick to say that Adelabu did not perform. But if you look at the problems and the magnitude of the problem in our electricity sector, which a lot of us tend to want to simplify, and you go deep into what steps and actions and innovations were brought in to move the sector forward, from the part of APC, they might see him as a performer. But from the people who are supposed to receive electricity service across the country, they'll say, I don't have electricity, so I judge him as a failure. I, who sits here, will not say the same thing because based on what I experienced. So if the consensus is that there was no electricity in his period for the period he presided and therefore he's a failure, those who put him in office, when I look at his performance and what he brought in, but sometimes you want to get electricity you've generated, you want to transmit, you can't transmit, you want to distribute, the discourse are not within your control. So it's a very huge ecosystem of challenges. It was appointed
to fix it.
Well, it couldn't fix it. The time, everything you want to fix in anything need time. You need the time, you need the resources. Even if you have best of intention, you don't have these two, you can't do anything.
There's something very instructive that I'd like to pick on. You said that based off of APC's metric, giving the issues and the problems that have plagued the power sector, and so far since assuming office and even stepping away to pursue his political ambition, they have scored him.
No, I said they could.
They could have scored him fair. But if you give the metrics according to Nigerians and the masses, that is a complete different story.
So just hold your thoughts there for a second, Judith. We have a call from Frank. Frank from Port Harcourt. Good morning to you.
Good morning, you all in the studio.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Please go ahead and share your thoughts with us.
APC who that endorsed former power minister Adelabu for governor. For me, I don't like the endorsement. I'm an APC member in Rivers State. Because if you say you're just based on performance, if you look at him critically, you see that Nigeria came under his watch as a power minister. And after all, Villa migrated from national grid to solar under his watch. So I don't know his performance. Please, we want candidates there that our people will come out victorious in 2027 election. It's not because of their personal interest. We just come and endorse a person like that. I don't welcome this development. Please, thank you and God bless you.
Frank, I was going to ask Frank.
That was quite frank.
Yeah, that's quite. So I was going to ask Frank whether he also accepts the development for what's going on with the APC.
If APC endorses a candidate that is weak in the public's eye, that's a risk and disadvantage. So I'm not going to tell APC what to do. If they have scored him right and they present him before your people and your people rate him that he didn't perform well and they didn't vote for him, who is the loser? So it is up to every other party should be excited about a party bringing forward a supposedly weak candidate. So I don't see it as a big thing that should worry anybody. It's APC that's taking the risk.
Interesting. Well, let's switch gears to the Punch newspaper, shall we? Still, pretty much the screenings is what's really taking center stage. Screenings with the APC, screenings with the elections that are coming up in 2027. The one that that jumps at you there. Pre-primary screening tension mounts as APC panels disqualify over 150 aspirants. Screening fallouts rocks states ahead of Friday's commencement of primaries. Disqualified APC candidates storm appeal panels as Anambra chapter expels 30. Aggrieved aspirants pile pressure on APC over screening row, and that's on page 2. You say that, who are we to tell what the APC what they want to do? This might, is the broom disintegrating?
I also want to ask if they have paid for expression of interest and
they must have paid, yes.
Forms at this point.
Yeah, they have.
Wow.
Yes. See, this is the time where all political parties are tested, especially that party in power, where the stakes are higher. In this case, APC is now confronting itself. Just like I said some time ago, every party will confront itself, and the other parties are crumbling on their own contestation. Now it's time for APC to showcase, because that is where the juice is. So if you disqualify 150 people, that means out of those 150 persons that you have disqualified, they will contest it, and litigations may arise. And so this should be something that all the other opposition parties should watch very closely, and this can, inure to their advantage. Don't forget what happened in Dapo Sarumi in Lagos, when the contest in that party led to somebody who was not expected to win at that time, won the election. So I see an interesting, development, and I'm very, very keen on seeing the outcome of what's happening in APC regarding the primaries and the disqualification. If people still want to act with impunity, they surely will pay for it at a certain point of the electoral process.
Thus the leader, we all know that even though Netawa Yewata is the leader of the party, we know that the pseudo-leader in some sense, or the shadow leader, is none other than, the number one citizen of the country. Do you think he has it in him to hold fort or hold the party, the broom as tight as possible, in spite of the dissatisfaction we're seeing just ahead of primaries?
This is a test of his youthful leadership. He's one of the youngest, one of the youngest chairmen of that party. And I feel that this is a test. Whoever is the leader of APC must be very careful. Whoever plays the role of leader must be able to ensure that this journey this matter and all these primaries, consensus issues are handled with the utmost care. I hear and I see and I know that we have that character of impunity. We've seen a state where the chairman himself just endorsed a particular candidate, and there's crisis rocking in that state already. So much is happening, but this is a very interesting moment. Okay. And I'm very happy that they've removed indirect primaries, and that is going to, improve the situation within the parties.
And just before we move, we have a call from Uche. Uche is calling from Abia. Hello, Uche.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I wonder what the caller said. Caller from Port Harcourt, regards to Adelabu. Ask that caller, have the president provided light? A whole president who said that if I did not provide light, electricity for you, don't vote me in. And the caller is talking about Adelabu. Adelabu is going
reasons.
Or if they elect him, he's going to govern his state. We are talking as our president, a president of the country, and they have, graduated to solar in Asoro. This is you hope. And the person you had that caller. God bless you.
Thank you very much. Let's also recall that Mr. President said, if I don't give you genuine reasons as to why I didn't provide you power. So I guess providing that power in 4 years, time is almost up. That issue is over. So now we are waiting for the reasons. And maybe the reason is in Oyo State, but I don't know. Just say. A quick one. Ogun State senatorial stakeholders present Abiodun as consensus candidate. And then, in the same story, I will emerge victorious at APC senatorial primary, says Benga Daniel. How do you, we have a lot of...
I think they have not been able to achieve a consensus. So he is saying that if there is a primary, he's going to win. He believes that he's performed well as a governor, and he's not contesting governorship that needs vote from across the state. I expect everyone who has won governorship ticket to be able to walk over a senatorial ticket.
It's not automatic.
I'm saying I expect. It's not automatic.
Still on elections, there's one here just still on the Punch newspaper, but this time on the other side, and that's the PDP. We know that there are factions within the PDP, but this seems to be, we do not know, but the headline points towards saying that Makinde may join 2027 presidential race come Thursday, which is tomorrow. As we look at APC, we also have to look at the PDP. And we've seen what's happening in Rivers State, where there's somewhat of a rainbow coalition between the PDP and the APC. We've also seen Wike, who has been very vocal from day one about his support for President Bola Tinubu. What do you think? What do you make of the PDP going into the race? Will they go into the race?
Which PDP?
Exactly.
Is it Makinde's faction of the PDP or the weakest faction? So I think Makinde is just trying to play the role of a spoiler. I think the political atmosphere and the calculations have gone against his
Why do you
position.
think Makinde never defected?
I think he didn't get the right deal. I think he's been trying to. His quarrel with Wike did not also help him. Wike has always been the forefront of negotiation for them. And so when he tried to pull away to play a leadership from that, break away from the G5, I think that did not play out for him at all very well.
Why not go to the ADC on the NDC?
You know, the way he's thinking of it, he's still trying, he still has the window of defecting to APC. He has always been looking at the best deal. He has just not been able to get that deal. Everything seems to go wrong each time he meets the president and comes out and he fires, you know, heavy in opposition. And then they go after him. So I see him as a spoiler, not just for any purpose. Even if he's going to contest, he knows that ticket is invalid, but he's just going to put his posters out. So let's see what's going to happen.
Let's see what's going to happen.
NDC pegs presidential form at 60 million naira, primaries hold on May 29. This seems to be the most affordable presidential ticket at this point, 60 million. Mr. Katuga, you might also be looking at picking up one.
I think because
yourself. The others are within the range of 90 and 100 million.
I think
there's a discount.
This is just to deter people from playing the spoiler role in their party because their consensus candidate is Peter Obi. And so with Kwankwanso as vice, but they don't want some people to just
you say that with a lot of confidence.
Yes, already even Kwankwanso himself seems to have confirmed that in an interview. That is the way of the NDC. This is just to deter people.
But why are these tickets?
They should know that if anyone wants to spoil their party, 60 million is
why are these
small
tickets
budget.
so expensive? The president's salary on paper is about 1 million
I think just
naira.
to act as
and then this nomination form is 100. Where did they want him to get that kind of money from?
The nomination forms for political offices are usually not from your salary. They are from interested parties who raise money in proper democracies.
Some beneficiaries of NEL Fund, by the way, have decided to raise 10 million.
They can do it because if you look at their numbers.
That story.
No, even if it is, they can raise it.
No, they came out. They said no.
No,
they said it's not. So let's not share
that
it's
story.
a fake story. They
So
said
what I'm saying is that
someone from the APC camp used that.
That's a low blow.
So, and you know, when you are within the political sphere, people just do a lot of things to gain prominence. So it's important now for Nigerians to check our stories before they run with them. What I'm saying, the NDC 60 million Naira nomination form prize is just to deter people. They already know where they are going, and we are looking forward to how that ticket will be given the necessary, publicity that is required to gain the right momentum for the election. That's what's left.
Interesting news here. Gowon unveils memoir, Defense Civil War Choices. I think is 90 years old now, if I'm not mistaken. He was president, foisted a reluctant head of state during the events of July 1966. The presidency was foisted upon him. He was a bachelor. He was in his 30s. And he made several choices. Why is it important for him to tell a story at this point?
Well,
and are there lessons to be learned as a country?
We have a very distorted and divisive historical record of events in this country. Everyone writes from their sentimental point. So he must have been observing that people have been writing different versions of the Civil War, and he has decided to, because he was the head of the country at the time, and he has lots of information. So his own, should be able to
their own point of view.
Yes, that's that story.
IBB did, he did,
and if you read all these stories, they are not accurate in the sense of...
they are very unreliable point of view.
That's a very painful thing.
Point of view,
to see when Nigeria is giving narration to stories that we all even witnessed.
Yeah.
And so we need to see how a center for historical records. Our National Museum and Archives should step up to make sure that all these memoirs are checked against the veracity of the claims made by these writers, so that we don't just allow different versions to fly in the market.
Right. There's a story on Punch that's quite interesting, but I'm going to just read that, but we're not going to dwell on that. It's on page 19 of the Punch, and that is Nigeria misses
I believe we have
production quarter.
A caller, okay. Ebuka from Warri, if I'm not mistaken.
Apologies. Yeah, let's go ahead.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ebuka.
Morning, Ebuka.
Sorry. But I want to thank New Central for the quality of analysis you brought this morning, Mr. Adebayo. It's quite commendable. But I want to take a distance from politics of the day. Can somebody make a sense that crude oil is sold higher, which means Nigeria is supposed to be earning more? There's supposed to be a windfall at the moment. But instead of earning more, what can justify the borrowing that we are borrowing today? In the face of it, we are also seeing that the MTAs are not funded. Where is this money going into? Can we put a torchlight on it, please? Because it doesn't make sense. Somebody said that if you can explain Nigeria to someone and he can understand it, it means the person is also not fun. How can you be earning more at the same time borrowing and you are running in deficit? Where is the money going to? Can we follow this money? Because the MBAs are not funded. The military said they are not funded. The health system said they are not funded. So where is this whole money going into? That's my contribution.
Many thanks for that, Ebuka, because it brings us to our next question about, which was, I was going to pull up, the Nigeria oil, our crude oil production. We have missed the target again for OPEC oil production quota again. That's on page 19 of the Punch newspaper. And just months prior, the president was asking that we needed to ramp up our crude oil barrel productions per day. And now, once again, we're missing the quota. What exactly are we getting wrong in the oil sector?
No, so much. We get so many things wrong. We're not a very consistently productive country. We're very lackadaisical. Anywhere corruption thrives, where people have so much distortions, you can't really be a high performer. You see it even in our football, for example. We have some great players, but when it comes to assembling the very best 13 or 22 that will represent us, all kinds of things play. And when we go to this big stage, we see small countries shining. It's just a problem of the distortions we've suffered for so many years. And to correct it, we need a huge level of education to improve the quality of the Nigerian citizens. For no nation can be greater than the quality of its citizens.
No nation can be greater than the quality of citizens. Let's circle back to politics and go to this Nigeria newspaper. Let's just pull that up for you up on the screen. We've been talking about the primaries coming up, but there is now a warning from CSOs, civic society organizations, and they're warning, or rather telling INEC to heed their call to tackle vote buying and audit beavers, as well as IREV, as we head into the elections. They're also urging Nigerians to elect only credible, performance-driven leaders. We've seen APC verify and also give consensus to very questionable, figures taking positions of power. We've also seen what happened with the video that has been trending that we saw online in Lagos. The money bags, right? And so it begs to ask the question.
Maybe our get that video
about
ready, so that's what can react.
So if we can pull up there. There we go. Those are the video right there. And so it begs to ask the question about the role of INEC, whether or not they're being neutral, and whether they're not stepping up to the plate.
And what do you also make?
What do you make of that?
This video you are seeing is the normal practice. Is it because you see, when we have seen the video, we show outrage across the political landscape? This is the language the political party foot soldiers understand. This is the language the Nigerian electorate understand. If you want to stop vote buying,
not all Nigerian electorates. You can't speak for
I know. I say Nigerian voters, with the exception of, there must be an exception in any general statement.
Absolutely.
I cannot say because I said that it means everybody. The same way we say all Nigerians want to vote at the president. Is it true? So anytime you see what I'm saying, it's sad that the country is in a state where we have incubated poverty. And anywhere there is so much poverty and illiteracy, democracy really doesn't thrive to its greatest, finest extent. Because the person who makes the decision to vote must have a certain knowledge power to make that choice. And if his choice is made by the influence of who has been his benefactor, what do? Because you see our country where people live on freebies and largesse. We are very good at asking for charity, asking for free money, because we don't created enough jobs.
How do we correct this anomaly? Because I know it doesn't happen in Ghana.
I speak to that in a negative sense, that it's against us, that we have come to a stage where if I tell you I condemn the politician, and the politician says I went to ask for vote, and they say, where do you have for
Mr. Katuba, there's poverty in Ghana, but you don't see this in Ghana. Why?
No, you have. I told you earlier about how you have to develop your citizens. If you have not done so, they become your liability. The citizens that will make... Agbakoba on TV was making a proposal. He said voting in Nigeria should be restricted to a few elites. That the majority of people who vote have no idea of the... Yes, that was his very controversial proposal. That meant that it should be about 10 million Nigerians that should be able to vote for leaders. That was what he said, because he has seen that you take advantage of the very poor who has a voter's card. And the politician is seeking the juicy public office. He's not going to change overnight because that he will not buy the vote when he doesn't believe his opponent is not going to buy the vote.
The law is against voter buying. We have INEC, we have EFCC.
Okay,
what I'm saying is they are always thinking they think someone is buying the vote, so he's also buying.
We are bordering on entering Jasiri, and there are men on this program. There are no men on Jasiri, so before people mix it up and start thinking maybe me and Joe were transgender, it's better we leave now.
How did you link?
Hey, let's go on a show. This is where we close the curtains. We must say thank you to our guests all today. First of all, Mr. Theophilus Akatuba, also to Mr. Funso Doherty and Mr. Adewole Adebayo. All three of them joined us on Breakfast Central. Join us tomorrow. It's going to be in-depth analysis like never before. Wake up conversation, and not to forget what Nigerians are saying.
Another packed show.
Bye for now.
As
we'll
always.
See you tomorrow morning.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mr. Akatuba. Joe, I will write your name as name.